My name is Nick Carraway, and this story begins when I decided to leave behind my old life and move to New York. I wasn't chasing wealth or fame, at least not at first. Like many others, I simply wanted a fresh start, a new opportunity, and a chance to understand what life really meant in a world that seemed to be changing faster than ever. I rented a small, simple house in a place called West Egg. It wasn't the most luxurious area, but it was filled with people who had recently become rich, people who had money, but not always class. Right next to my modest house stood something that felt completely out of place, a massive, extraordinary mansion. It was beautiful, almost unreal, like something out of a dream. And it belonged to a man named Gatsby. At first, Gatsby was nothing more than a rumor to me. People talked about him constantly, but no one seemed to know the truth. Some said he was a war hero. Others believed he was involved in dangerous illegal businesses. There were even whispers that he had once killed a man. But despite all these stories, no one could say they truly knew him. Every weekend, his mansion transformed into something unbelievable. Bright lights would fill the sky, music would echo through the night, and hundreds of people would arrive in expensive cars. The parties were endless. People danced, laughed, drank, and enjoyed a life that seemed perfect from the outside. The strange thing was, most of these people were never invited. They came because they could. And they left without ever thanking the man who made it all possible. And in the middle of all that noise and celebration, Gatsby was always different. He wasn't loud or careless like the others. He didn't lose himself in the party. Instead, he often stood quietly, watching everything, as if he was waiting for something or someone. Not far from my home, across the water, lived my cousin, Daisy Buchanan. She was the kind of person people admired instantly. Her voice was soft, her smile was warm, and there was something about her that made it hard to look away. But behind that beauty, there was also a deep sadness, something she never spoke about openly. She was married to Tom Buchanan, a man who had everything money could buy. He was strong, confident, and powerful, but also arrogant and cruel. Tom believed the world belonged to him, and he treated people that way. He had no respect for others, not even for Daisy. In fact, it wasn't long before I discovered that Tom was having an affair with another woman named Myrtle. As time passed, I finally met Gatsby. It happened during one of his famous parties. I expected someone loud, maybe even dangerous. But instead, I found a man who was calm, polite, and surprisingly kind. He spoke carefully, choosing his words as if every sentence mattered. But the most noticeable thing about him was the way he looked at the world, with hope. Soon I learned the truth behind everything. Gatsby wasn't throwing parties for fun. He wasn't trying to impress strangers. Everything he had built, every light, every song, every moment, was for one person, Daisy. Years ago, Gatsby and Daisy had been deeply in love. Back then, Gatsby was not rich. He had dreams, but no power to make them real. Daisy, on the other hand, came from a wealthy family. And when Gatsby left for war, their lives went in different directions. Daisy eventually married Tom, choosing security over love, but Gatsby never moved on. Instead, he built his entire life around one idea, that one day he would see Daisy again, and when that moment came, he would be ready. He made money, no matter how, and created a life so grand that it could not be ignored. He believed that if he could just reach her again, everything would go back to the way it was. With my help, that moment finally came. When Gatsby and Daisy met again, time seemed to stop. At first, they were nervous, unsure of what to say, but slowly, their past returned to them. The memories, the feelings, the connection. It all came back. Gatsby looked at her as if she was the only thing that had ever mattered, and Daisy, for a moment, looked at him the same way. But love is not always enough to fix the past. Daisy was still married. She had built a life with Tom, even if it wasn't perfect, and Tom was not blind. He began to notice what was happening between them. The tension grew stronger with each passing day until it finally reached a breaking point. One hot afternoon, everything fell apart. In a tense and emotional confrontation, Tom exposed Gatsby. He revealed the truth about his wealth, questioning his character and his past. Gatsby tried to hold on to his dream, insisting that Daisy had always loved him. But Daisy couldn't say it. She couldn't fully deny her life with Tom, and in that moment, Gatsby's perfect dream began to collapse. That night, tragedy struck. Daisy was driving Gatsby's car, her mind overwhelmed and her emotions out of control. Suddenly, a woman appeared on the road. There was no time to react. The car hit her, and she died instantly. The woman was Myrtle, Tom's secret lover. Gatsby knew what had happened, but he made a choice. Without hesitation, he decided to take the blame. He was willing to sacrifice everything, his reputation, his future, even his life, just to protect Daisy. To him, loving her meant protecting her at any cost. But this decision led to the final tragedy. Myrtle's husband was consumed by grief and anger. He wanted answers, and he wanted justice. Believing Gatsby was responsible, he tracked him down to his mansion. Gatsby didn't run. He didn't hide. Perhaps deep down,